Hello, this is the 19th month we've been running Crimewatch, and as far as I can work out tonight, I think we've had the busiest response ever. As you can see, detectives are still on the phone, taking calls at this very moment. If we go live now to Edinburgh, to the incident there on the Susan Maxwell and Caroline Hogg killings, you can see too, detectives there still hard at work. We'll be going to find the response in just a moment.
First of all, in South Wales, the murder of brother and sister, Richard and Helen Thomas, at the house they'd lived in all their lives, Scoverston Park, near Milford Haven. On December the 22nd, the last Sunday before Christmas, Mr. Thomas was last seen in his car heading towards Neyland. The last known contact with Helen Thomas was at 9 o'clock when a neighbour phoned her. At 11:30 that night, the house was ablaze. The bodies of Richard and Helen were found inside. They'd been shot dead. In charge of the case is Detective Chief Superintendent David Davis. Now, you've had some good calls, I gather, on the Land Rover. The owner of the Land Rover seen twice on that day.
Yes, overall the response has been very good. Yes, the Land Rover, we've had one or two very interesting calls in relation to the identity of the Land Rover. We've had some very interesting calls as well in relation to the man at the cinema. The yellow car seen outside Scoverston Park, we now know the identity of the driver who was there at that time. Can I make one last and final appeal? We are appealing to Mr. Thomas's homosexual friends. Please come and see us, and they'll be dealt with in the strictest of confidence.
And to that fat man in particular, it's just to eliminate him from your inquiries, absolute confidence.
That's right, yes.
Right, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, now we go back live to the incident room in Edinburgh, where the Deputy Chief Constable, Hector Clark, is in overall charge of the investigation into the abduction and deaths of Susan Maxwell and Caroline Hogg. I can see the detectives still hard at work behind you. What sort of response have you had, Mr. Clark?
Well, we have 29 lines in this room and one other. They've been constantly engaged since the programme ended. We've now got another 11 lines in operation, and we're getting calls on the 999 system from members of the public. Very impressed by the response.
Can I ask you about one specific thing? You appealed earlier for a woman who'd called herself in an earlier correspondence to Alice. Now, has she come forward?
No, we haven't had any calls from anyone claiming to be Alice, but we've had a number of calls from people who claim they're identifying her. Now, we've got two detectives on their way to a small town north of Dundee at the moment to see a lady. We're very hopeful there.
Mr. Clark, thank you very much. One of your colleagues, Mr. Henderson's been taking calls here in London. What sort of response here?
Very good response. Considerable numbers coming in at all times in all directions of the country, with reference to the tennis racket and, in fact, the artist impression in Bath Street.
Now, this tennis racket, a Dunlop Alpha, Dunlop made this for us because they're so rare now.
Yes.
You want anybody to come forward who's got one of these or who found one in mysterious circumstances.
It's missing since 1980, true. If you've lost it, if you've found it anywhere, you are now playing with it, please get in touch with us. We will sort it out. We very dearly would like to get it back.
The new description you gave us tonight, you said you've got people ringing in about it. Just quickly repeat that description.
Yes, the description is a dark-haired man, unshaven, in Bath Street at the material time. The predominant feature being the thick lens spectacles indicating poor eyesight. We have a great number of calls regarding that as well.
Right, and whoever wrote this letter to us at Crimewatch from Skegness, please do get in touch with us. You say you found a tennis racket in Sutton, in Ashfield. We really need to hear from you again, please. Sue.
Well, Superintendent David Hatcher and Constable Helen Phelps have been collating the calls so far on Incident Desk. Helen, does anybody recognise the detailed description you gave of the rapist who attacked a woman at her home in Basildon in Essex?
This video fit generated many calls, one of which is interesting. A man is saying that he had seen a person fitting this description in prison, which ties in with the clue given that he was supposedly on the run.
And his clothing was quite vividly described too, wasn't it?
Yes, there were rubber-sole shoes, tight-fitting jeans and the black bomber jacket. Also the red scarf. That's very distinctive.
And that's missing. He's missing that, so that might identify him. Also, there was some distinctive jewellery and silver stolen from the English country house called Orchard Wyndham in Willington in Somerset.
Yes, that's right. Our main request was to trace a car, a green Ford Taunus. I must stress that this car is in our possession, but we need to trace the owner of it. Dr. Wyndham did show us a silver plate, and many callers have phoned in to say that that plate did appear on the Antiques Roadshow a little while ago.
Right, well, we'll follow that one up. David, there was a stolen cigar box over the Easter weekend in West London. Any leads on that?
Yes, so this one also could be in an antique shop now in West London, and we've got officers actually digging out the key holder to go and have a look for us. But just to remind you, it's got an inscription on the back, "We'll fight on the beaches," Churchill's famous speech. If you think you've seen this, please call us. There were 50 made, and the one we've got an address for might not be the one, so please still call if you think you can identify it.
That's quite rare. And perhaps one of our most spectacular failures, a very clear photograph we showed of a bank robber at Barclays Bank in Limehouse. Nobody's recognised him, amazingly.
That's right. We've had one recent suggestion that's just come in while we were talking, but somebody must be sitting at home wondering whether or not to call us to identify that man. Don't sit there wondering. That man uses a gun. Next time he could fire it and kill someone.
Right, please call us, Nick.
Indeed, if that man is watching, maybe you can earn yourself some brownie points by giving yourself up. Finally, the attack on a Greek businessman, Peter Joannides. He was shot at point-blank range in the bedroom of his home at Southport, Merseyside, on March the 22nd.
You two girls are playing.
Peter.
My God! Get out of here! Get the...
Mr. Kirby, what sort of response have you had?
Well, the response has been absolutely tremendous this evening. I think from here and at Southport we've had somewhere in the region of 100 phone calls, mostly giving us suggestions as to the identity of that caller, which is exactly what we wanted.
Anything specific? Anyone specific?
Yes, there's one man who's come into Southport Police Station this evening. He's now being interviewed. We've assured him that we will deal with the information that he's now giving to us with the strictest of confidence.
Now, there's a big reward on this case, isn't there?
There is indeed. There's £10,000 being offered for information, which is going to lead, to the apprehension of those people who are responsible.
Well, you sound pretty optimistic that someone's going to claim that reward. Thank you very much indeed.
I hope so.
Well, detectives are still taking calls on the death of Sarah Harper. We've had some good calls, no news we can give you yet. Our lines will be closing down in about 40 minutes' time. They're open till midnight. We'll give you a complete list of telephone numbers around the country in just a moment, and all the numbers are on CFAX on page 186.
Still getting information about positive calls that are coming in. If you can't get through, our apologies. The lines have been jammed tonight, but please don't give up. Contact your local police, or you can write to us here, BBC Television Centre, London, W12 8QT. We'll be back in a month from now. Don't have nightmares, please. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.